Hello, bonjour. Today I want to show you how to make this type of painting from scratch using the software Krita. It's an ambitious project because I want to stop at each step and try to break down what I have in mind when I take some decision. So it might take time, but I hope it will make a very good video. So let's start. The production of this video was sponsored thanks to the supporters of my webcomic. I'll tell a bit more at the end of the video. I would like to start this tutorial with a little introduction of how I customize my Krita interface, and for that I will launch a little script I made that wipes all my preferences, and so I can usually test Krita without my customizations. And here we go. This is the interface of Krita. I will resize a little bit the windows. If I try to click anywhere, it will not work. And this is because all these elements are locked by default when you launch Krita. You need to create a new file at first, custom document, create, and then you will be able to move things around. So on the first thing I'm doing, I reduce the size of this icon here. They are big by default because Krita is also a program that is on Android, and for the touch device and touch screen, it's good to have big icon for the big fingers. But here I have a mouse and a tablet, so I can right click and reduce that to 16 by 16. Then I will shrink this to a single column. I also customize the advanced color selector here. So pick the little button here on the corner of the advanced color selector, and I click on the preview and select the square shape of the color selector. I press OK. And why I'm doing this? Because I like to have my value scale like this. So I can see something a bit in the middle and something dark and something bright. I'm not using the little shade selector here, so I will reopen the setting and go to the shade selector and say type not show, do not show. I also usually put my brush preset list, that's all this icon of the brush, as a second column. So for this, I grab the title of the Docker, and so I can move it. And then I bring it on the top column like this, and I release the button. And now I will plug the layer just under the advanced color selector. It's a bit wobbly, but you can manage to do that. And I will resize it so I have a little bit more space on my list of brush. The list of brush and the icon size, I can reduce it. So there is a little hamburger menu here. You can click it and reduce the icon size. I also do not use the tab of Krita, and tab is when you create more than one document, like 2 or 3, and you get the new document by tab on the top here. I prefer a mode that is named sub-windows, but that is not the default. You can go into Setting, Configure Krita, and under Window, you will find here the option Multiple Document Mode, and by default it's Tab, and I switch it to Sub-Windows. So when you are using Sub-Windows, the main windows that you will work will be maximized, and you will get the command here under your window manager button. So I will just reduce all of them, and you can see that all my documents are like little windows that I can manage how I want on my canvas. So for example, putting one here or one here, but it unlocks also a menu here, Windows, and you have access to Cascade, that cascade all the windows open, and Till, that auto tile the document open this way. I usually need more icons on the top toolbar of Krita, and to add them, I will go to Setting, Configure Toolbar, and this panel will show you two columns. So one column here will be all the available action and all the available icon you can plug on your toolbar, and this will be like a representation in vertical of your horizontal toolbar. But as you can see, you have only new, open, save, undo, and redo, and that's only this little part here. If you want to access this big part, it's a bit hidden, because you can see that toolbar here refer to just these little things here and here. And it's a little bit hidden by default, but you have to click this, and brush and stuff will be the other toolbar here. Something that I like is the brush option slider 3. Brush option slider 3. And if you want this one to be on this list, you have this little arrow here. So press this one and the slider will join the list. And we will move it also down. So 1, 2, 3. I hit apply, and then I have a third one that is on the top. I prefer to have the opacity in second and the size in first, or something like that. I also need a lot more icon here, so I will continue, and I will just plug on the list various icons like the stabilizer off and on here, and then I will put a little undo and save button. And because on the first toolbar there is also this feature that I don't need, I'm just removing them. I also like to customize a little bit what appears on the canvas. I dislike by default the color, it's a too bright gray. So if you go to Setting, Configure Krita, and if you go to Display, Grid Setting, I have no idea why it's in grid, because this is not a grid, but you have the canvas border color here. And if you click on it, you can pick a deeper gray. And now I will customize the cursor. So here you can see what we call the brush outline. And for that I go to Setting, Configure Krita, in General. And here I have option for the brush cursor. So there is no cursor actually, and there is only the brush outline. It's the preview outline. I made a big article about the cursor and the outline on my blog, and you will find probably the link into the description. But in a nutshell, I advise to take or the small circle. So it will be a little small circle cursor always at the center, or a triangle that is right-handed or left-handed, depending of your way to handle a stylus. And last customization is about the tool option docker. So the tool option docker is a very important docker in Krita, because if you click on any tool here in your toolbar on the left, you will see that the content is changing depending of the tool. But I really dislike to have this one plugged by default and hidden behind the color selector, because I can't really see what happened in it, and when I need to access it, I need to hide the color and go back. So I find it really more convenient to get the tool option as an icon between these two that I can click and get the tool option appearing here. And to set the tool option like that, you need to go to Setting, Configure Krita, into General, into Tools, and here you will have the option. Tool option location, and it says it needs a restart of Krita, and I will say now in Toolbar, not in a Docker. I press OK, and then I restart Krita. And if I create a new file, and I will pick a A4 at 300 ppi. So this part will be filled with this preset, and then RGB, 8-byte, and sRGB for the profile. It's something very default. And I press create. You will see that my tool options now are on the top toolbar here. So if I select another tool, it reflects directly on this button. I will finalize the customization with one thing. It will be to plug here the overview Docker. So I will go to Setting, Docker, and find the overview here. So I click on it, and this is a representation of what is on your canvas. So if I do a shape like this, you will see it in little, and this is very convenient to get a sort of distant view of your artwork. So by default, overview received some feature over the years with the zoom, the rotation, many buttons, and I prefer to deactivate that because I can also zoom with Control and Space on my keyboard without buttons. I can also rotate with Shift and Space on my keyboard as I want. And I can also pan the canvas around with space, and I can navigate. So I don't really need all of this. And so you have here a little pin on the bottom of the overview Docker. And if you click here, the little button will disappear. But you can still move your mouse or your tablet over and access this type of menu. So this is very convenient. And once the overview Docker is like that, I just take it and I plug it here on the corner, and then I maximize Krita. For this tutorial, I will use the default preset set. You know that on my blog and on my channel, I share a lot of brushes, but I thought it would be more interesting for this tutorial to start with the default set of brush. So that's all for the customization. So now what to draw? As I'm recording this, I have no idea. What I want to do is probably to go to the Krita Artist Forum here on kritaartist.org, and I will see what is the monthly contest. So I'm scrolling down to contest and monthly art contest. And the monthly art contest, this is always with a little pin in front, is draw Kiki, the Krita mascot, in your own style. That will be funny. So you can access here the thread. The idea was submitted by Grum999, and yes, that looks really fun. So I'm closing that, and now I will start to think what it means to draw Kiki in my own style. I think the best thing to do in order to do that is to collect some references. My favorite tool for that is not in Krita itself. It's an external software that runs also on Linux, but also on other platforms, I guess. And it's Bref here. You can see the icon. And I'm clicking on it, and I have the Bref windows appearing on my second screen, so I will bring it here. And Bref just collects a lot of image quickly, and I will just grab some picture and make a little time lapse about what I'm grabbing, copying and pasting in Bref. So here is the document I collected, and this is only open licensed content, and you have the mascot official design by Tyson Tan, and this photo by Aspanasevich Maxim on Wikimedia Commons, and these are public domain photos. So I selected this picture that I made recently of pepper, and this is the type of composition that I will try to replicate on this tutorial. I will save this document, and during this tutorial I will move it into my second monitor, so you will not see it. If you don't have two monitors, you can just resize BREF like this on a column on the side of your screen. And there is also, I think it's arrange vertical, that will put everything into a column if you need that next to your Krita. So now let's start to draw. So I will switch my mouse to my stylus in my hand. I will start to zoom a little bit on this canvas. I need to do some thumbnail first, because if I do some little drawing, I will have a better idea of how I can handle my composition and how I handle the pose, the tilt of the face, and everything I want to storytell on this picture. So at first, staring at a white background like that on my screen is very difficult. I have to reduce a little bit the backlight. So what I did here is just to select a mid-gray color and press Shift and Backspace on my keyboard, but you can find it, Edit, Fill with Foreground Color. You can also lock here with the little padlock on the layer, so you will not accidentally draw on this. You see the cursor now is a little prohibited symbol. And we create a new layer on the top with the little plus here, and you can name it. And I will select a brush from the default. There is this one that I like, Charcoal Rock Soft from the list. I will select this one, and I will pick not the pure black color, but something like maybe 10% black. I will reduce the size of the brush because it's a bit too large by default. I hit Ctrl Z to undo. And I press Shift and I hold the key and I drag the brush to be smaller, a bit like the tip of a large felt pen. So I think I want a portrait for the format of the document, but not something too stretchy like this, more something that is closer to a square. So I will do one like that, and I press Ctrl J on the keyboard and just duplicate it like this 3 times, and then I press Ctrl E to merge them back to thumbnail. So I have here my 3 thumbnail. They are not perfectly aligned. I can rotate this. I press Ctrl plus T on the keyboard, and it will select the transform tool here on the toolbar. And then I can rotate them a little bit and press Enter on the keyboard to bake the pixels. And I will press B again to switch back to the brush and be able to draw. If I want to erase something, I will press E on the keyboard or just click on this icon here to switch to the eraser. So the eraser is just the same brush that I selected here, but now it erases. So that's probably not a lot done so far, but it's probably wise to save the document. I like to finish it by _001, so I can save multiple versions. In this situation, I don't have a lot of choice. When you do a portrait, I have to think about the value of the composition at first, and you have the situation where you have a strong silhouette on a bright background, or you have the situation where you have a dark background and a bright silhouette, like that. And of course, you have also all the situation where you can balance that with one side a lot of shadow, and then it's the background that is dark, but on the other side the background is brighter. Well, you understand. There is also a situation where all the picture is low contrast, like if the character was in the fog. So maybe there is other, and I forget them on the top of my head right now when I'm recording, but that's to just show you what big picture of value we can think. And I think that for this illustration I want to go with this one, mainly because we have Kiki, and we saw that this cyber squirrel is in white. So if I want to make some effect of light on her hair, like that, it will shine a little bit more on a dark setting, like that. So what I imagine for Kiki here is to get maybe a shy character with a eye like this, probably the head that tilts a little bit downward. Because it's a shy character, maybe it's a bit cliche, but a scarf around her. I want the squirrel ears, even if it's not part of the original design. So here, it's not the type of composition I want, because Kiki also has an interesting haircut. So I would pick a selection tool, will draw around this little thumbnail, and press Ctrl T and resize. So I have more room on the top of the character. And she has this type of shape that is like a lotus. And I want to make this, but with real hair on her design. And she has also an interesting type of hair bang in front. I think it's called this way. Sorry for my vocabulary. So maybe a scarf. And probably the shoulder a bit high, so the head a bit low on the shoulder. A very shy person. Probably I would imagine her as a art student, and probably on the background by night some distant neon symbol of the big city, like that. And we can probably have some spotlight above her head, so it will be visible here, also there. And probably some black on her clothes, because I see that black is part of her design a lot. And probably a big source of pink will be on the background and the neon symbol. So for the color contrast that I'm looking for, you can already paint it as a thumbnail. It's good to get some idea sometime. I would like something that is like really interesting twist on Kiki, a Kiki that you usually don't see this way. It's for the fun. Probably I will not use that much of white, because a good contrast with this blue here, you see that I have some bright yellow right in front, or almost right in front, And I know that white reflects color red light a lot. So maybe it can be good to have slightly greenish, because going more green, it's going more deep blue. But slightly greenish light. And I'm sure I want a deeper effect on the background. So what I do is I select a blending mode for my brush. So the color will just now start to merge differently with the color on the canvas. I can take multiply, this one darken, only darken, but probably I want something that increase a little bit the contrast. And this one is overlay here. So if you don't have it in your favorite list on the top, I think it's part of the default, but maybe I customized also this list. And it can be on the mix, I think. Let's see. Yes, mix, it's overlay. So checkbox here. I will not explain that for all the blending mode on this tutorial. So overlay, and I will take a dark blue maybe on overlay. And I will boost like this. I will deepen the value around the character. And because overlay is one of these blending modes that darken under the mid-gray and brighten over the mid-gray, I will also get this type of burnt contrast if I do that also on the top a little bit. So I'm launching now a time-lapse because I want to go through a couple of revisions, and I will probably switch brushes for something a little bit more sharp on the way, but except that it's still the same process. So I want to increase the balance of this one. I will press Ctrl R, put a big selection around this, press T on keyboard just to move tool and move everything. I will deselect, you can find it in select, deselect here. I mapped this one to Ctrl D on my keyboard because I think it's easier than pressing 3 key at once. The default of Krita is Ctrl Shift A, and for me it's difficult to do that with one hand. And I press Ctrl T just to move them. So now I have more room on the side to continue this little quest. And I will duplicate this one because now I want to just increase the color effect, but for that I will use layers, not layers, but I will use filters. The filters are here on Krita, and you have adjustment filters, and this is a lot of tools that can influence your colors. You have, for example, on the classic, the desaturate one that turn everything black and white. You will find also the very classic one, hue saturation, HSV adjustment, hue saturation value, and you can desaturate, so turning more to black and white, or very saturate and make all the color very popping, and it's not very well to do that, but The one that I will use now is filter, adjust, and color balance. This color balance filter has three big categories: the highlight, the midtone, and the shadow. And on our picture, it's easy that if I want my shadow, so the darker part, to be a little bit more cyan, I just have to take the slider and go a little bit more cyan. And this is interesting because you can see, I will check and uncheck the preview. It's brighten all the picture, but it change also all the color into one direction that is very interesting to me. So I will uncheck the preserve luminosity. Yeah, I already bug reported about this, but this is complex about luminosity and color. If you uncheck this, it will visually preserve more the luminosity, as you can see. So it doesn't really make sense, but I prefer to uncheck it by default. And I will push it a little bit more in the cyan, like this, cyan. You can see before, after. It's a slight saturation, but I think it works better. And on the highlight, so on the hair, maybe I also want to put this cyan and see what it does. And I think it's interesting. So I lost a lot of shiny, but it's like if now the highlight of the character is more inside the scene. It's not like if there is a special colored color of studio that divide this character from the environment. So I like that. And I will select now this color, and you see that we are now clearly into the green territory, but the local color almost read still as a yellow one. I really like when this is happening. It means that the ambient of the piece is starting to work together. So I will just push it a little bit. So this is a bright light, but because I still have the multiply blending mode on my brush, it's going darker and darker, and that's not what I want. So you can press here the little reload original preset. That will clean the preset as when it was default before we put this multiply blending mode on it, and it will come back to normal. You can also press and come back to normal, but I usually do that. So I have my color selected, and now I have this like cold highlight, and that's what I wanted when I took the reference photo of the kitten and of everything. I wanted sort this bright color, hair color. Maybe I'm too influenced by Chichimi on my reference board, because now, yes, I read, and I said the yellow read green, but I actually want her to be white hair. So I will probably do some modification. I will probably switch to the HSY color blending mode. I think it's part of the default also, so color. And now if I color something, it will just affect the color. And I will probably try slowly, because this brush preset, I can press lightly on the stylus and get very thin glazing. So here I glaze to just make all the hair colder, so they don't appear anymore yellow. It's Kiki. I want her hair to be white. And I think it's revealing more and more what I'm really after. Not luminosity, but I will take maybe screen, a blending mode that brighten only. I think I want some dramatic light, some sort of Blade Runner setting for Kiki the cyber squirrel, and I want this contrast of white hair that is a sort of a cliche in anime. So now I have my thumbnail done. I know where I want to go in terms of colors, of contrast, of value, and of character poses, and there is no detail, accessories and everything, but this will come on the next part. Our next step is to clean up a little bit all the volumes and all the poses and everything, because even if it works like that as a thumbnail scale, I can guarantee that once I will start to detail it, I will start to find a lot of problem in terms of proportion, in terms of hand anatomy and everything. And if I just keep painting like that on the top, I might take more time. I will be totally able to do that, but I will just take more time than if I just do a drawing, a better drawing of it. So you will see. I will save this. It will be my first version. And I will press File, Save Incremental Version. And when I press Incremental Version, you will see that the file quickly changed to 002 now. So incremental, if it's find a number in your file, it will just try the number after. So if it's 001, it will go 002. So now you understand why I named my file this way, because it's very convenient for me. So I will press Ctrl R, do a big selection around the thumbnail that I don't want anymore. Keep this thumbnail, and because I have a A4 300 ppi, and this is a good resolution, I will do a little selection around this, and I will stretch now this to my canvas. So you'll see I will have to crop a little bit the artwork. I'm cropping with the crop tool a little bit. So now you can see that I'm at 33% of the viewport here on the bottom of the screen. And that means that the real pixel appears if I zoom like 3 times. These are real pixel. But because my screen is pretty dense into pixel, you see that I have to zoom a lot in Krita to see the actual pixel. So that's why we resized the thumbnail to 2400 something by 3000 something. It's to get this type of pixel density. I will create a new layer above the thumbnail here. And on this layer, I will redraw a little bit the part that I need. So I will put the thumbnail layer into low opacity, so I can see better what I will do with drawing. And on the drawing layer, I will pick like this one, basic size detail. And I will start to redraw the face of Kiki. And you will see that I left on the recording a lot of indication about what I'm doing. You will see a lot of guideline, you will see a lot of visual explanation, and even if I accelerate, I hope it will be still visible and it will give you some hint about what I'm doing. Before continuing, I will just do another incremental saving, save incremental version. And so now we are on the third step where we sort of blend together our drawing and our colors from the thumbnail. For that, I will just restore the 100% color of the thumbnail. As you can see, it's a mess on the screen. And it's not really easy, for example, when you have dark object to know what's going on, for example, for the backpack here, because I have some very dark value and now I totally lost my edges. Same for this, because it was describing a shoulder, but now the shoulder isn't existing anymore because I have my scarf here. So everything like that make it very difficult to read. Of course, for the burn, for the eyes and everything. It's easier to manipulate the thumbnail when it's a little bit brighter. Here I will do another technique. It's filling a layer with white. So at the start of the tutorial, I show you that you can fill with foreground with Shift and Backspace. And that's what I did for this layer. It's a temporary layer, so I will just rename it with a little dots on it. And I will just remove the opacity a little bit, so now everything is brighter. It's like a sort of a overlay, so I can just turn it on and off and see what I do on the thumbnail clean. I will select a brush that deforms. It's a distort move, and it's in the default brush. So this brush distort everything like this, and you can move everything. It's like liquify, but in real time. And the trade-off of being real time is it makes everything goes very blurry. So if you have a tiny detail like that and you use it, they will be lost. But our thumbnail doesn't have precious detail, and I just want to move the mass of color here and there. So now everything moved not really in place. You can see we have a ear of Kiki that is not painted at all. We made the dark pointy tip. There is a lot of things that can be improved, but it's at least a little better than this in terms of readability. And when I will put this one to 0, it will work a little bit better. But now the picture is very dark because our drawing input a lot of darkness. You see, it's like increasing a lot the darkness compared to our thumbnail. And that's because our lines are dark. I'm aiming for a rendering without line. So these lines are just guideline. And I will turn them into a blending mode that is the grain merge. So you will find it under mix, maybe, yeah, grain merge, if it's not part of your favorite. And I will put this one, and grain merge, as you immediately see, the dark line over bright area start to become brighter. Only this already improve a little bit the situation. And I will reduce the opacity quite a lot. Probably like that. 50%? I like rounded number. So we still have our original thumbnail, the deformation, and now our drawing. And I will continue to take a rounded brush. So I will make thumbnail, just to compare our step, thumbnail clean, thumbnail painting, but maybe. And this is a sort of coating of painting under the lines. So I will pick a brush for this, maybe this one, the basic size opacity. Testing. Yeah, good. Right now I'm just used to one that has a little bit more hardness on pressure. So I will probably customize it a little bit this way. Yeah, that looks good. And the brush tip, maybe to be a little bit more interesting, I will just squeeze a little bit the ratio and give it a little angle like that. Yeah, so I will save this brush. Before that, I'm picking a black color because I want to paint on the thumbnail of the brush. So I will put save new brush preset. Just to see that this is my brush, I will just draw something over it. You have here the load from icon library, where you can choose what tip you want for your brush. So if you want to make your custom brush, there is like tools. You can change the color, yellow. Let's take a yellow. I will draw here the stroke. And show that this is a tilted shape. And I will call it basic 5 opacity. So this is a brush that glaze a little bit at low opacity. So on my tablet, if I pick a color like this and I just press slightly, you'll see I obtain some glazing. You can see the transparency. But if I press a little bit harder, I replace the color. So I will try to adapt the color palette with this type of brush. And of course, this brush has a hard edge. It means that you see the border, it's very thick here on the side. Sometimes the brush of Krita are optimized for very, very, very low performances. So the brush runs fast, but you can see that there is here a problem with the spacing. I have the shape that repeats, not enough, so you have this visible on big stroke. That's a little problem for our tutorial, and I will just reduce the spacing. So I open again the brush editor, and the spacing is to 20%. Yes, no wonder why. I will just lower it to, yeah, maybe 5%, maybe a little more, 6%. Oh, let's go. And size, the curve could be a little bit more harder. It's just because my stylus start to get tired on this old tablet, and I need a curve like that more and more to experience slow, low pressure. Okay, I will not save the fact that it's eraser. I'm testing. Yeah, this brush looks good. Let's overwrite this brush preset. So now I have a brush and I can do some spiky shape. I usually just draw quickly like this and just remove. So I color select with a control and just remove another part. You see, I can do very sharp spike. So a sort of rounded brush like that for me is is what I use actually. At that point, I start to be blocked by a lot of line from my line art. It's when I start to paint and you see the line by transparency stop to prevent me to do some fix. For example, at this other eyes, I start to see that here I would like to probably fix the volume from another view angle, but you see I have this edge here that prevents me to do that. And that's the problem with line art and with drawing. And that's why I dislike to just paint under, because while painting I often spot a lot of mistakes. And that's why at this point what I will do is just to select all the artwork like this and go to edit, copy merged, and Ctrl V, projection. But here now you can see that this is like a solid picture, and I probably don't need all this layer under now. So I will do some little cleaning like this, this, and the thumbnail. I will probably merge like this, like this, like this, and I usually name that under. It's like the under paint. I keep the drawing along because it's fun to get the first idea, and this way I can still blink and see if something is weird. So for example here you see that I pushed the iris, and this line that bugs me is actually the iris itself. And yes, I felt that I had to fix that. So I will do it now, and I will probably launch a time lapse for all of that. So you will see me hiding the layer and trying to recover some part of the drawing that I couldn't do that before. The paint over of our piece is taking shape. There is no problem about it. So I can show you the paint over layer right now and compare it with what we had before. So I made a lot of painting on the shape of the face and tried to fix it. I'm not super satisfied with that. I will continue on tweaking this, but I wanted to stop the time lapse for now just to show you something that I start to be a little bit annoyed with something, and it's with the value. And I have a very big range of value here, and this is interesting. Maybe I can show a Docker the histogram. So where are you hidden? Here. So I will unfold it and put here. So I'm pretty happy with how we have some dark part of our picture here. So this is all the pixels that are dark. So there is the blue one, the green one, and the red one. And we have a very good dark palette and a few pixels that are on the bright. And there is this type of curve that is really typical to the value setting I explained in the start when we started the thumbnail. So a very dark environment and some point of light. That's why in this painting, for example, this totally normal red, you see it's even not, if I show it on the color palette, it's even not the most saturated or the most bright one. I still have a lot of room, but already a red like that really shine a lot in a dark environment like that. But I think I can push it a little bit more. I think this part here can move a little bit this way. So I have sort of to darken the gamma of the piece. I think it's a little bit too bright. And also, I think that my highlight here, you can see that they are still not white, but they are almost full white. And I don't like that because I saw that on my recent painting experience that going to pure white should be really reserved to some light source that face the camera. Because we work on a flat layer, it's just on the top of our layer stack, but it's easy to just duplicate it. And I will name it adjust. And I will also duplicate it so I can see my adjustment before and after. Control M. And this is the color adjustment of Krita, the curves. And you can find also them in filter, adjust, and let's see, color adjustment curve. Here, Control M. And so I made a video about curves and about adjustment where you can see more gamic filters and everything. But for this piece, I just want to take the white part of the pixel here and just lower it a little bit. So doing it this way, just it's like adding a layer of darkness on the top. It's not what I really want. I want just to probably here, you see, lowering this part. But if I lower this part, because the curve of Krita is like that, you lower also all the dark and everything. So it's really difficult with this tool to just selectively the highlight darken them. But if you create a lot of nodes on your curve, it's possible. So this way, preview, and you can see that here the highlight that were totally burnt, I can lower them and make a selection about that. So that's what I will continue to do, probably lowering and lowering them. Ah, nice. So now I feel that I have more room to just draw more highlight on this artwork. And that was sort of important for me. I also lost something that I wanted at the thumbnail. Now I have this light that is very cold. It's because I wanted to make a a skin shading that was very white, but now it's looked like a bit pink, and I wanted to save this pink for another part. So I will apply this like this, like that. And because the effect is slightly too strong, I can reduce the opacity. Like that, yes, maybe. And just merge down. Okay, now I want to probably recover some greenish highlight. So I can do this with the curve, but I can also do this more simply with the color balance. I will go on the highlight and getting into the yellow territory, maybe. Yeah, and checking preserve luminosity maybe. And I have something that is closer to what I want. The hair still looks a little bit white. Maybe I just pushed it too much. But now they are a material, they are not a source of light. And that's what I wanted. And there is also all this bed here of a bed, because this is an expression, but it's an environment here that I want to push into this direction a little bit. So I will call again the curve, and I will lower just a little bit the black part. So now, before to move to more adjustment on the background, I need to add some more detail on the background. So I will launch a time lapse where I paint a little bit more this background. I totally dislike how the value of the background start to compete with the character. So I have some darkness and some light part here on the character, and they are really too similar with the background. So I will create a new layer, and I will put the mode into lighten. The blending mode lighten, you will find it if it's not part of the default in the lighten category here. And I will pick a big airbrush, like this one. And on this lighten layer, I will just take a bright color, like that. And I will just paint a very subtle haze, like a fog, on this. Maybe I can add a little bit texture to that. So on the default set of Krita, you have this little checker box red near to the brush that produce a lot of texture. So maybe this one, texture wood fiber, it's not really texture for wood. This is just an example, but it makes some, you see, some big line. And I don't want to suggest some rain, but I want to make some more interesting stuff in the background, just that. As I said, it will be blurry after, and that might do the trick. I will also put some random, just little stain here with the brush texture splatter. So it can be dust in the environment. It can be many things. And then I will pick a brush, an eraser brush, the eraser circle, and I will just erase the character from this blue haze and texture. The thumbnail now is way easier to read, and I like this effect. So, and probably a part that doesn't work really well for the silhouetting is the burn of the top left one, this one. So I just come with a small brush, this one, the Bristol 4 glaze, and I'm glazing, just gentle stroke here and there. Yeah, like that, maybe. It's easier to read. And there is this burn now that I think that still don't have enough contrast. So I will come back to the overlay. We saw it on the thumbnail, and I will just paint a dark gray stroke here under. So it will improve a little bit the contrast on it. Here I have a stroke that overlay this color, and it make a saturation burst into the green. It's not really what I want, so I'm erasing this part. As you can see, I'm not zooming in a lot in my artwork. I try to keep the general idea. I also don't like how her ears, her squirrel ears, are not really blending into the piece. Yeah, there is something that that bugs me, mainly because they look really animal right now. I think the piece could work so much better without them. And Kiki would probably look a little bit more human, but probably that's something I want to achieve here. And now I want to blur this background also. That's something I don't do just right at the end. I prefer to do it before doing a pass of small brush polishing. So what I do here is I will create a filter mask on this layer. But for that, it's easier to just launch the filter I want to do. So I'm going to filter, blur, and I will go to lens blur. So I will keep probably the same type of blur, pentagon, and I will put just a larger radius until it looks like something distant in the background. Like this I like because I still can guess that this is a billboard, like this is a little city in the background, and there is still some detail reading. Maybe I overdid it. Yes, maybe like that. And I will create a filter mask. So right now, the filter mask is white, and it means it's on in all the picture. White is on and black is off. So what I will do is I will just pick a brush, and I will start with maybe a very strong edged brush, maybe the one I made. It's a good one. And I will come with black, and I will just reveal the sharp detail of my painting, like that. Up. So I'm doing the character. And the brush in her hair. And suddenly it gives a lot of depth to the artwork, because the eyes is able to probably see the difference between background and foreground more easily. So that's something, blur and camera effect, that I slowly insert more and more in my artwork. And someone asked me to do this tutorial about my newest art style. So this is one that includes a lot of things like that. Something I like to do is to take an airbrush now, take some white, and you see the edge of the character. Maybe the camera can focus on the nose, on the eyes, but all of this part that turn in the distance, just blurring them a little bit. Sometimes it helps at doing a little something. Now I would like to push the little details of the painting. You can see that the brush here, they could be pushed a little bit more. The neck here is not readable at all. The eyes could have better and thinner edge. And I will start a time lapse because I probably will spend now the longest time in this piece. So probably 1 big hour of detailing. Yes, detailing has a high price on the on the artwork, and I could probably let it like that for the contest because it could be like a speed painting, and the picture is already telling a lot. But let's try to push this one to something a little bit more finished. So I know I'm reaching the last part of the artwork because now each painting stroke I put on it, I think I have to deal with a lot of testing before, after, and I think I start to destroy the piece. So that's a good sign for me that the artwork is done. I will try to archive now the file, and in order to do so, I will probably just merge all the layer in my paint over layer. So I will select it and go to convert to paint layer. So now my group is a single layer, and I remove the merged. I rename the layer, and now I can compare to all the big steps of the drawing. So the paint over, the drawing, and the underpainting. Because I have a lot of pixels outside the canvas, what I will do is I will go to trim to image size, and this will remove the pixel outside the canvas. So the fill size will be smaller this way. And now my file is ready to archive, and I will probably go to save incremental for a last saving, and yep, I will call that a final. So I'm recording this final segment one day after the shooting and the realization of this artwork, because I usually put a night on all my artwork, and when I wake up the day after, I have like a fresher eyes on some small but some fundamental problem usually on the artwork, and that's the case for this one. So I will just duplicate my paint over a layer, and I will do the modification in this one, and I will press Ctrl G to put that in a group. So now I will have a group. If I do more layer, I can turn off and on the group. So that was a lot of work. I hope you enjoyed the video. I want to thank here all the supporters of my webcomic. They are on LiberaPay, Patreon, and also Tipeee. If you can join them, thank you very much. I only receive donation, except for LiberaPay, but on Tipeee and Patreon, the main platform, I receive donation only when I publish a new episode of Pepper and Carrot. And that is happening very rarely now. So like 2 times or 3 times per year, just because I'm focusing a lot on the quality and I'm opening all the process. So I'm opening the storyboard to the community, and we do a lot of proofreading, a lot of review, and I also write it in French, so we do the translation after in English before posting, and all this organization take a lot of time, but also all the polishing that I put in the panel takes a lot of time. And by having a lot of supporters, I can invest my time into this type of quality, and also still get some days to explain on the blog my process, and also make this type of video. And making a video like this takes time, like 1 day for shooting, maybe 1 day for the ideas and for taking notes, and doing the video editing and posting, etc, etc, etc. So thank you very much if you can help me to continue to do this type of work. For everything else, subscribe button, like, comments, you know what to do to please the algorithm if you can. Thank you very much and see you later. Bye bye.